another fifth from that, another fifth from that, and so on. And we're going to try it with perfectly in tune 3/2 frequency ratio fifths, and we'll compare that to MIDI's equal tempered fifths, and we'll see if we can hear the difference. So we're going to use our friend the saw, and we are going to give it a frequency, and we are going to take some number of fifths, and we're going to go up, and we're going to take that number, and we're going to take 1.5, the 3/2 ratio, to that number. We're going to raise it to that power. Okay, so to the 0th power is 1, the first power is 1.5, to the second power is 1.5 times 1.5, and so on. Okay, so this is going to be the number of fifths to go up. And we are going to multiply that by our base pitch, which will make, let's say, 200 hertz. And we'll set this back to 0. And we'll multiply these two numbers together using floating point multiplication. And that'll give us a frequency that we will listen to out our sound system. So here's a starting point. Oops, we're stuck on a very low note here because this is a 1 hertz. You hear that? That's our sawtooth clicking every 1 hertz. So let's put a TBF on this. So when we change the base pitch, we'll get a instant change in the output. I'll transpose this up. There's our 200 hertz. And we can go up by fifths. And we can go down by the same amount. So this math works for going down. You can take something to a negative exponent, and you get this is 2/3 instead of 3 halves. And you know this is going to sound better with some reverb. So I'm going to go over to so we're going to add it. So this is going to be a plus. Harmony and transposition and modulation and so on. I would recommend that you probably want to use, and you're pretty far from the just 5/4. So if it were exactly 5/4, 3/2, perfect, just intonation, harmonic series. So that difference is what's called the Pythagorean comma. So if you look at this mathematical equation, you see that 3 halves to the 12th. So again, here's our base pitch, but it's not our base pitch. Using equal temperament. So let me save this just so we have it. Stacked fifths 2 ways. Okay, so this is all using frequency ratios, taking 1.5 to some power and multiplying that by our base pitch. So let's do it all the exact same. We'll have another sawtooth wave over here, whose frequency we're going to determine using M to F. And it's going to have a base frequency. In fact, I'm going to copy quite a lot of this, and we'll change it bit by bit. Okay, so we still want a base pitch. In fact, we use the same base pitch, but now we have to convert it. We want to do all our calculations on this side in MIDI. So we're going to take our base pitch and convert it from a frequency to a MIDI note number. So here's, if I bang this to make it output, it's 200 again. That tells me that F2M, 55, I don't believe that. I think you need to give this a floating point value, so that you get a floating point, 55.34 something. Okay, so this is now our base, and instead of multiplying it by the amount we transpose, we're using a log scale, so we're going to add it. So this is going to be a plus 0, and that's our base pitch right here. It's getting a little messy. So again, here's our base pitch, but it's not our base pitch. It's not our base pitch in MIDI note number, so we better change that comment. And that's going to be added to how many half steps in a fifth? There's 7. And we're going to add that. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I think this is going to be right. So let's listen to this one. So it sounds pretty the same to me. So let's play them together. So now listen to both of them. And there's a fifth. Let's control both of them at the same time. And we'll hear that on the original note, they're exactly in tune. And if we go up a fifth, it's phasing a little bit. There's a very slight detune, so you get like a slightly richer sound. And if we go up to, you see now we're 1 hertz off. This one's 449 hertz, this is 450 hertz. And if we go up again, you can hear it beating. That's beating faster. Okay, so those are fifths. So we could the equal tempered fifth is only a couple cents off from the just fifth. So not a huge difference in sound, but a big difference in philosophy and a big difference in the way that you reason about this. So again, if you're dealing with raw frequencies and frequency ratios, then an interval is something that you multiply another frequency by. Whereas if you're dealing on a MIDI log scale of frequency, or if you're using octaves or semitones or cents, any of these things that are on a log scale, then the way that you make an interval is you add something to a base note. And so here's an example of how to do all that. Okay, so now we're gonna get pretty deeply into some pretty nerdy music theory. Many of you have probably heard of the circle of fifths. So this is an idea from music theory that this diagram demonstrates where if you're in the key of C, you go up a fifth to G, you go up another fifth to D, and so on, and you work your way all the way around, and then finally you get to F, and you go up another fifth, and you're back to C. You're back where you started. So it makes a circle. So it turns out this only works with equal temperament. If you're using 3/2 as your fifth, and you go up 12 of them, then what do you have here? Let's patch tells us exactly that. If we have 0 fifths, then we have a frequency ratio of 1. And if we go up by 12 fifths, we have a very high frequency ratio, 129.74. So on a piano, if you go up 12 fifths, then you're back where you started, but some number of octaves higher, 7 octaves. And I know this because 2 to the 7th is 128. But you can see that 12 of these, and here, let's actually do this. This patch will tell us exactly. So let's make our base pitch be much smaller. Let's make it be 50. And let's go up 12 half steps from that. So 12 half steps up from 50 is approximately 6,400 plus a little floating point error. Whereas if you go up 12 of these Pythagorean 3/2 perfect just intonation harmonic series respecting fifths, then you don't get quite as far. You get to, or no, you get further. You get to 6487 because 129.7 blah 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 is a little bit more than 128. So that difference is what's called the Pythagorean comma. So if you look at this mathematical equation, you see that 3 halves to the 12th power is this very large number, which is 531,441 over 496, which is about 129.74, which is close but not the same as 128, which is a perfect power of 2 to the 7th, which is 7 octaves. So if you go up 12 fifths and down 7 octaves, then you get a ratio of 1.01364 blah 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 blah. And the ratio of that to 1, which is about 23.46 cents, is what you call a Pythagorean comma. So that's basically how much you miss if you go up by these perfect fifths. When you get back to where you started, you aren't really where you started. You're a little bit sharp, and that's why it's actually, you can call it the spiral of fifths, because you start somewhere, you go around 12, and you end up right next to, but not exactly where you started. So all of these different kinds of historical tuning James Mean Tone, Werkmeister. You can look this up on the internet. There's site after site after site that'll give you all these frequency ratios and cents, and you can find all these charts. And in a way, they're all different solutions to the problem that the perfect 3/2/5 doesn't exactly get you back to the octave, and you've got this little sort of messy leftover interval you have to deal with somehow. The solution with 12-tone equal temperament is, well, we'll just take that little tiny bit of error and we'll put it everywhere. We'll divide it evenly, and we'll have every interval just be a tiny imperceptible bit out of tune, and then all the music theory will work, and we'll have a nice circle of fifths, and we can transpose and modulate to our heart's content. That's great. And if you're writing music that is going to use a lot of tonal harmony and transposition and modulation and so on, I would recommend that you probably want to use equal temperament, because all the music theory that goes into those ideas is based on equal temperament as a tuning system. But if you want to explore other kinds of harmony, if you want to look at intervals that are more pure, if you're using drone-based music and you've got a rich drone that you want to make sounds over, then you might want to consider some of these other tuning systems. So let me show you a little example I made that highlights my personal aesthetic preference for the just major third. Let me say again, by the way, that although the fifth is very close, so if you've got your 3/2 frequency ratio, that's 7.02 half steps. That's only 2 cents off. But if you have only 4 half steps, a major third, then you're pretty far from the just 5/4. So if we're exactly 5/4, whoops, I missed. If you're exactly 5/4, then you would be 14 cents flat of 12-tone equal temperament. So what about those 14 cents? Where can we find that? So here's a little patch I made called Where's the Major Third? So first I make this drone, which is kind of changing for no good reason. Let me take this part out. I don't think that's fun. Okay, so here's a nice rich drone made with 3 sawtooth waves and clipped a little bit and a little reverb. And what we're going to do is we're going to add another note above it. And I made this note able to slide. So if we turn this note up, there's a major second, and there's a perfect fourth. So somewhere in here is the major third. And to me, that is a sweet sounding major third right in there. And what is this frequency? The one I ended up with was about 500 hertz, which from the way that I set this up, that's our just major third. So that's an equal tempered major third, a little sharper around there. And to me, that is kind of ugly, not a tune sounding. I would much rather hear this lower major third, right around 500 hertz. Because again, it's part of our harmonic series: 200, 300, 400, 500. You can make exactly 500. That's right there. And it's a little sharper, like you get with 12-tone equal temperament. Believe it or not, that's the major third that we're all used to. When you hear it in this context, it sounds out of tune. So point is, context really matters. If your music has a long drone and you've got a frequency that's over the drone and you can just really hear it and just get deeply into the sound of it, then that's a situation where you might be interested in getting into more of these mathematical ideas about tuning and temperament. Digital audio and digital video are basically just a whole bunch of numbers. And to process audio, to process video, to synthesize audio, synthesize video, to deal with interaction, just about anything you want to do with a computer eventually involves numbers and processing those numbers mathematically. That's why this session has given you a few different tools for dealing with math. You've learned several of Max's and MSP's and jitters objects for doing basic arithmetic, clipping, scaling, interpolation, crossfading, some of the many mathematical operations that give you different kinds of results to fade between 2 sounds or fade between 2 video clips. We also talked about scales and tuning. We got a little bit into the math behind the 12-tone equal temperament tuning system. And we talked about Boolean mathematics, logical computations, dealing with true and false and or not, etc. I personally wish that I knew more math. And I'm sure some of you out there know a lot more math than me and have some mathematical ideas that you'd like to try in Max. And I hope that the resources that I've shown you will empower you to be able to read the documentation and find out how to use the functions or techniques that you know and apply them to processing audio, video, and interactivity using Max.